G'day, everybody. Now, I have a question. If you find a contradiction in the Bible, are you going to just think that one contradiction is a problem or the whole Bible? And even to that, I have, now where am I? I'm all over the place. Yes, 439 of these contradictions are in the Bible, and every single one I am going to investigate every single one. Now, I am down to number 26. Who was Amasa's father? Now, this is an interesting one, or I should say, I'm hoping it's going to be an interesting one because today I actually haven't gone through this one. I've gone through, okay, what's the apparent contradiction, but I haven't worked it out. So let's work it out together. Who is Amasa's father? Let's get into this. My name is Craig, and this is Morning Star Quest, where we're getting through the Bible one question at a time, one of these contradictions at a time. So let's get into this and let's find out what the answer is. So, g'day Cosmo, how you going?
G'day, Craig. I'm doing well, thanks. Ready to unravel this mystery about Amasa's father?
Well, yes. So let's start with 2 Samuel 17:25. Can you just read that out for us, please?
Sure thing. 2 Samuel 17:25 says, "And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son, whose name was Ithra, an Israelite, that went in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother."
Okay, there's a lot right there. And okay, so let's go into 1 Chronicles 2:17.
All right. 1 Chronicles 2:17 says, "And Abigail bare Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Jether the Ishmaelite."
Okay, there's not so much there. It's a little bit plain and simple there, but what is the contradiction here? And let's just get down to who was Amasa's father, and maybe can we just have a little bit of history of what's happening right now, but let's and just simplify it, I guess.
Sure. The contradiction lies in the names of Amasa's father. In 2 Samuel, he's called Ithra, an Israelite, while 1 Chronicles refers to him as Jether, an Ishmaelite. The historical context here involves the power struggle during Absalom's rebellion against King David. Amasa, related to David, was appointed by Absalom to lead his army, which adds a layer of intrigue to the narrative.
So who is Amasa to David? Is that his son? No, it's not one of his sons, but who is Amasa?
Amasa is David's nephew. He's the son of David's sister Abigail, making him a key figure in the family dynamics and political intrigue of the time. This connection adds complexity to his role in Absalom's rebellion.
And with Amasa, we'll get to his father in a sec, but with Amasa, what did he do? Because Absalom was trying to usurp his father, if that's the right word for it, or attack his father and become king himself. But what's Amasa's role with this?
Amasa played a pivotal role as the commander of Absalom's army. Absalom appointed him to replace Joab, David's loyal commander. Amasa's involvement was crucial, as it signified a deep familial rift and showcased his significant military role in the rebellion against David.
So with King David, he's got his son Absalom coming up against him, but his son's, I guess, general is his nephew. So yeah, okay, there's a lot of stuff happening there. So why Amasa's not really a great person in the scheme of the Bible, is he?
Amasa's legacy is complicated. While he played a significant role in Absalom's rebellion, which puts him in a negative light, his actions reflect the complexities of loyalty, family, and power struggles. Later, David forgave him and offered him Joab's position, but Joab ultimately killed Amasa, viewing him as a threat.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of stuff happening there at the moment. So let's get down to the brass tacks. You know, with both of these verses, we've got 2 Samuel 17:25 and 1 Chronicles 2:17. They are obviously saying Amasa's father has either two different names and two different heritages. Why would these be different if they're the same person? Are they the same person?
Yes, they're referring to the same person. The difference in names and heritage could be attributed to variations in translation or cultural context. Ithra and Jether might be the same name rendered differently. Also, Israelite and Ishmaelite could reflect different aspects of his background or affiliations.
All right, we know what an Israelite is. It's a people of Israel. But what's an Ishmaelite?
An Ishmaelite refers to a descendant of Ishmael, Abraham's son through Hagar. Ishmaelites were a nomadic tribe known for their trade and dwelling in the desert regions. This term highlights a different lineage from the Israelites, adding complexity to Amasa's heritage.
Right. Okay, so let's just try and get into this a little bit more. But would an Ishmaelite and an Israelite, could they be the same? Like, could one person have both of those heritages?
Yes, it's possible for one person to have both heritages. Given the intermingling of tribes and families, Amasa's father could have connections to both the Israelites and Ishmaelites. This dual heritage would explain the different terms used in the scriptures.
And outside of these two verses, what is there more information that we can gather who Amasa's father is?
Outside these verses, there's limited information about Amasa's father. The focus in the scriptures is more on Amasa's role in the political events of his time. The differing accounts of his father's name and heritage remain one of those intriguing biblical puzzles.
Okay, that's fine. And with Samuel or Second Samuel, as opposed to First Chronicles, everything is written to a certain audience. Are they to a different audience? Like, one is trying to say, okay, the Davidic line with an Israelite, and on the First Chronicles is kind of saying, well, this guy is not that great, and so we're going to give him a not so great title this time.
Exactly. 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles have different purposes and audiences. 2 Samuel focuses on the political and royal history of David's reign, emphasizing his lineage and the Israelite identity. In contrast, 1 Chronicles, written post-exile, aims to unify the returning Israelites, sometimes presenting characters in ways that serve this purpose. The different perspectives on Amasa's father reflect these distinct narrative goals.
That is so interesting. So, and how many years apart are we talking about here between those two?
The books were written several centuries apart. 2 Samuel likely dates to around the 10th century BCE, during or shortly after the events it describes. 1 Chronicles was written much later, around the 5th century BCE, reflecting the post-exilic period. So there's a significant gap between them.
Interesting. That is very interesting. And I guess over time it's to a different audience. And really, in the scheme of things, like of the scheme of the whole Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, from the prophecies of what the Old Testament is prophesying about with the Messiah, and in the New Testament, of course, the Messiah being Jesus, and he is the answer to everything in the Old Testament. What impact does this have to the whole Bible?
In the grand scheme, this contradiction has a minor impact. The Bible's core message centers on God's relationship with humanity, the unfolding plan of salvation, and the fulfillment of prophecy in Jesus. While discrepancies like Amasa's father might raise questions, they don't alter the overarching narrative or theological themes of the Bible.
So really, this is two different books, if you like, or scrolls, written a couple of hundred years apart with different emphases. I can't even say that. But the whole point is they are trying to go to a different audience, trying to tell a different story. And this is how stories are done. I mean, even even in the modern day, we have certain stories that are told to a certain group of people, so we use one language, and then to a different group of people years later, we use a different language or different names. So really, this doesn't really change anything. It's the same person. He is given different names depending on what the point is. I mean, I could be called Craig the father, or I could be called Craig the son. I know that's a very simplistic thing, but like I'm an Australian, but really I see myself as a South Australian, which is a very different thing as opposed to Australia. And anyone outside of Australia probably would think, oh, not really. But yes, it is. Well, I feel like I'm very different to Queensland, so or Northern Territory. So, you know what am I saying?
Absolutely, I get what you're saying. Context and audience shape how stories are told. Names and titles can vary based on perspective, purpose, and time. In the Bible, these variations don't undermine the core message. They reflect the richness and depth of the narrative, much like how we identify ourselves in different contexts. It all adds to the tapestry of storytelling across time.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is here, this is very evident that Amasa's father is exactly the same person in both of these. They just called him a different name and a different heritage. But like someone with a dual passport, he's got two heritages, so they can call him whichever one they want to emphasize a point. So I think this is done. What do you reckon?
I reckon you've nailed it. It's a great way to look at it. Just like someone with dual heritage or citizenship, Amasa's father embodies multiple identities, giving us different angles on his background. This kind of understanding helps us appreciate the depth and complexity in Scripture. Nicely wrapped up.
Thank you. And yes, I guess the thing is, this is exactly the same person. It's just he's just going by a different name, or they're giving him a different name and whatever. So it's really a done deal. Okay, so there are way more contradictions in the Bible, and if you think this is an actual contradiction that's going to stop you reading the Bible, then you need to watch more of these, because there's heaps of contradictions, because I feel like this is more of a Bible study, and I'm going to get into it even more as we progress. This is number 26. Next week it's going to be number 27, and we've got 439 of these. So it's a long journey, but it's going to be an awesome one. Catch you. Go do something awesome for God, and I'll catch you in the next one.